Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Kiorkof, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my Week 1 running back rankings for the 2020 fantasy football season. That's right. It's finally Week 1. We are talking about running back rankings. Man, am I excited. We are only a couple days away from the kickoff, Thursday Night Football. Hopefully, you guys are fired up. Hopefully, you guys are ready to talk, listen about some running backs. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about the new design, everything we're kind of breaking down here. Last year, we had a little bit of a neon look. Now we're going out of space because these rankings are out of this world, literally. So we're going to be talking about my running back rankings for Week 1. Remember, like it says above me, rankings are subject to change. So at any given moment, there could be a player that gets injured and or something happens. They sign a player. These rankings will not be the same by Friday or by Sunday. So they're always going to adapt, but hopefully this kind of gives you a pretty good understanding of where I rank these players going into this coming week. Again, we're talking about Week 1. So let's not panic now, okay? I talked about it in a video a couple days ago about the top tips of winning your 2020 fantasy league. And one of the tips was to not overthink fantasy football and to play your studs. It's only Week 1, okay? Let's not try to get cute with our lineups. Let's not try to play players that you're going to go pick up off the waivers and throw in. Play your studs. If you drafted Derrick Henry, do not be afraid of playing him against the Denver Broncos. If you drafted Nick Chubb, don't be afraid of playing him against the Ravens. If you're going to be at all tempted to sit these players, then trade them away or go play DFS. Because I'm telling you, Week 1 is about holding your ground and believing in the team that you drafted in. Okay, next week, Overreaction Monday, after the first week of football has kind of already surpassed and everyone's freaking out because players didn't, play the way they were supposed to. We'll readdress it then, okay? But as of right now, with this kind of an offseason, with no preseason, with so many uncertainties as of this moment in time, whether it's just regular established players or rookie running backs, just stay calm, okay? We don't want to overreact, and we don't want to try to get too cute with our lineups, all right? So that all being said, let's go ahead. Let's hop into our rankings for this week. Again, for those of you who are not subscribed, click that subscribe button because we're going to be talking about rankings like this every single day of the week for the next 17 weeks. Fantasy football every single day from this channel. Tomorrow will be wide receivers, then quarterbacks and tight ends. Sunday morning live streams, the hidden gems video this upcoming Friday. It's going to be very exciting. So hopefully you guys are going to subscribe, stay in tune. All right, now before we begin, these rankings are for half PPR scoring formats. We try to meet everyone in the middle. There's a lot of people that play in standard leagues, full PPR leagues, but in order to meet everyone in the middle, I'm going to be ranking for half PPR. So just so you know, also rankings are going to be in order and timestamps will be in the description of the video down below for those of you who are interested to just find a specific player. I always try to accommodate with that. So you can go check that out. Outside of that, let's get this going, shall we? I'm excited. Let's do it. Let's talk about our rankings, starting off with our number 1 running back, Christian McCaffrey. It's no surprise. If you drafted Christian McCaffrey 1.1 in the first round, first pick, you should be starting him this upcoming week. It's not really a conversation to be had. He will be playing against the Oakland Raiders. That in itself, a great matchup. So then again, in my opinion, he's just going to be a monster. He averaged 25 fantasy points per game in his last, 24 total starts in which he played full games. Christian McCaffrey has been unstoppable, and it's not really a conversation to have. He's the number 1 running back this week, and you should be playing him, and you should be excited about his productivity. I think he's projected 21 points and a half PPR on Yahoo. I think he could easily put up an extra 7 on top of that and put up a 28-point week against the Raiders at home on top of that. So it should be interesting to see how it transpires. Moving on to our next running back, we have ourselves Dalvin Cook. Now, Dalvin Cook gets to play against the Green Bay Packers here in Week 1. And, the Green Bay Packers defense, they've lost a couple pieces. They lost their middle linebacker. They still have a majority of their secondary and front 7. That being said, the Vikings were able to establish the run pretty well against them last season. Now, Dalvin Cook only played against the Green Bay Packers once last year, was week 2 of the season. And in that contest, he was averaging 7.7 yards per attempt, and he had 191 total yards and a touchdown. He absolutely torched that defense, and Green Bay struggled a lot last season against the run. They haven't done much, in my opinion, to go ahead and reestablish that defense to make it so where not anybody can run over them. And with Dalvin Cook's talent, fully healthy, with the offensive line coming downhill, I expect Dalvin Cook to have himself a really good week here. Again, another one of these stud running backs. Moving on, number 3. Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott plays against the Rams. That's going to be a fun game. As a Rams fan myself, I think it's going to be a really exciting game. The last time these two teams met each other was late last season during the regular season, and the Dallas Cowboys absolutely just bopped the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, they just destroyed them. I mean, Zeke went for 160 total yards and 2 touchdowns against the Rams. In my opinion, the Rams, again, there's a lot of question marks there. The linebacking core, 3 new guys that really just didn't have much experience last year. They still have the Aaron Donald and the Jalen Ramsey, but I don't think that's going to be enough to stop Zeke. I think he's just a man on a mission, and he's going to come out and establish the run in week 1 and have himself a pretty good game. He's my number 3. Moving on to number 4, Saquon Barkley. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you are scared of playing running backs into tough matchups in week 1, especially running backs at the tier of a Saquon Barkley, sure, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a fantastic run-stopping defense. I mean, in fact, when I calculated their potential grades from last year, of all their starters, they were the best run-stopping defense. Now, going into this upcoming season, sure, Saquon Barkley is going to start out with a very difficult matchup. And yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers only gave up one 100-yard rusher last year, but it doesn't mean I'm stopping myself from playing Saquon. I expect him to play well, and even if he cannot run the ball consistently, this is a running back that has been a monster against top-end defenses and can get the job done in the passing game. He's my number 4 this week with a lot of confidence. Moving on to our next running back, number 5, we have ourselves Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs will be playing against the Carolina Panthers this week, and boy, am I excited. The Carolina Panthers, in fact, gave up the most points to opposing running backs last season in a half PPR scoring format. I think what they've done this offseason with losing Luke Kuechly, sure, they bring in a defensive tackle with their first round pick. They tried to go ahead and fill some gaps to be able to stop the run, but I truly do think that they have not done enough to be able to stop the Raiders' running attack. That is a front 5 of an incredible offensive line that the Raiders have built over the last couple of years. You have Josh Jacobs healthy, ready to go. I think he's going to impose his will, as John Gruden always wants to do. He wants to come out and run the ball, then hit it with the play action. He's going to do that. It's going to be exciting against Christian McCaffrey on the other side. These 2 running backs are going to trade blows against defenses that, in my opinion, are not at the top tier yet. Sure, they've been building, but Josh Jacobs should be able to have himself a field day here. Again, Josh Jacobs, let's not forget, he has proven to everyone that he's capable of having a monster game. I mean, last season, in 8 of his last 10 games played, he totaled for over 100 total yards in 8 of those games. I mean, he's going to get there, whether it's on the ground or potentially through the air, which we're going to potentially see an upside. Again, a lot of uncertainty there. Josh Jacobs has a great potential. He's going to find himself in the end zone probably. We'll see ourselves with a pretty good week from him. Moving on. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, again, plays against the Denver Broncos on Monday night. And though that might be a scary matchup, I don't think I'm worried at all. Derrick Henry, similar to a Josh Jacobs, has proven that he can definitely get it done. In the last, 6 to 9 games of the season, so the last 6 regular season games he participated in, he was averaging 156 total yards per game. Then he goes into the playoffs, gets 30 touches a game, and absolutely torches defenses and is unstoppable. He's even throwing passing touchdowns. He can do it all, and I do not have any sort of hesitation with Derrick Henry this week. He's a monster. They call him King Henry for a reason, and he's my number 6 against the Denver Broncos on Monday night. I'm really excited about them establishing the run, and Derrick Henry have himself a nice game. Moving on. Our number 7 running back, Alvin Kamara. Now, we're hoping that Alvin Kamara is signed, and or maybe if he doesn't sign, he still participates and plays fully in this upcoming game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is an incredible NFC South matchup. But when these 2 teams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints, when they play against one another, Alvin Kamara is heavily utilized in the passing game. In fact, throughout his career, Alvin Kamara has averaged 7 receptions per game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last season, he had a game of 10 receptions and I think 6 or 7 receptions. He has consistently, throughout his entire career, in his 3-year career, been utilized in the passing game against this Tampa Bay defense. Tampa Bay's defense is great against the run. Don't get me wrong. They have a pretty good front 7. And that's why I think if, in fact, Alvin Kamara is healthy, his PPR work this upcoming week is going to be the determining factor of his ultimate value. But either way, he's a monster, and hopefully he's ready to play this upcoming Sunday. Moving on. Austin Ekeler. All my marbles, I put it into the Austin. I mean, I'm literally wearing a Charger shirt. Austin Ekeler is my ride or die this year. I put a lot on Austin Ekeler. I have him in a couple leagues. I wish I had him in more. In my opinion, I think Austin Ekeler is going to prove to everyone this upcoming week why I've been banging the drum for him. against the Cincinnati Bengals. Sure, they're not a great defense, but we're going to see how much he gets utilized in the passing game, how much opportunity he gets on the ground, that he can be a goal line back and score touchdowns. This is the week. My marbles are all in, and I'm hoping Austin Ekeler can get the job done against Cincinnati. I'm expecting him to do so. Again, this is a guy that when in fact he was the starting running back of this team last year from weeks 1 through 4, he was averaging 24 points per game. Even when Melvin Gordon came back, averaging 14 points per game. I expect him to be a fantastic running back. And I mean, to be honest, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the excitement. Man, I got to watch that game. It's going to be so exciting. Man, guys, I'm fired up if you can't tell. Like, literally, this is going to be such a fun year. Hopefully, everybody's ready and excited about this upcoming season. All right, moving on. Our next running back is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is playing against the Minnesota Vikings. Like I mentioned with Dalvin Cook torches the Green Bay Packers, but Aaron Jones returns the favor on a weekly basis against the Minnesota Vikings. In the last two games that he's played against the Vikings last season, Aaron Jones has averaged 110 plus rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown minimum against them. So I think earlier in the season, he had a game of 116 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Then later in the season, he had a game of 156 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He torches Minnesota. For as good of a defense Minnesota is, they could not handle him. Now, Minnesota got rid of Linval Joseph. That's going to hurt a little bit. They lost Everson Griffin, but they bring in Yannick Ngakoue, so that in itself kind of like fills in that position. You still have great linebackers. You still have good safeties that can come and at least make plays in the running game. But Aaron Jones seems to have their number. I'm excited about it this week. It's going to be a very fun game. 2 running backs just really competing. So either way, Aaron Jones, really excited about that. Moving on, Joe Mixon. So Joe Mixon, again, is going to get a lot of work. At the last 8 games of the 2019 season, no other running back was getting more touches per game than Joe Mixon in that time span. I mean, he was running the ball more times per game than Derrick Henry was. So if in fact we come out into week 1, healthy Joe Mixon, he's got his money, and he's got a better offensive line, a better quarterback, a better receiving core with AJ Green, fully healthy according to the head coach Taylor, we're going to end up seeing Joe Mixon thrive in this offense. I'm excited to see a lot of touches. The workhorse back is here. He gets a little bit involved in the passing game. Maybe a couple catches, maybe 3 catches on 4 targets. I'm okay with that. As long as he's getting involved, I expect him to have a great game. He's my number 10. Moving on to number 11, the guy that we're all questioning. All of us who drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Is he capable of being this top-end back? Week 1 is the week to see it. Now, I've talked to many of you about this. Clyde Edwards-Helaire reminds me a lot of Kareem Hunt. Let me tell you a story. In 2017, week 1, the defending champion, New England Patriots, took on the Kansas City Chiefs. In that game, the question was, is Kareem Hunt going to be able to produce? Because prior in the preseason, Spencer Ware tore his ACL and was gone, and Kareem Hunt was given the starting position, or he earned it for sure in camp, but was given the opportunity to start. He comes out, he fumbles his first attempt. He never fumbled once at Toledo. Everyone is panicking. Oh my God, we just started a guy. He's not going to get any points. My week 1's done. This is a wash. Then all of a sudden, 3 touchdowns, a bunch of receiving yards, and a monster game for the ages. 40 plus fantasy points. Here comes Kareem Hunt. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire against Houston this upcoming week on Thursday Night Football is going to have that kind of a pop game. That's my projection. That's my prediction. And I'm hoping it comes true. He's my number 11 this week. I'm excited to see what he's capable of, especially in the passing game. Moving on. Miles Sanders is my number 12. Gets to play against the Washington football team. Again, last year, if and when Miles Sanders was a starter, back end of the season, from weeks 11 through 16, prior to getting injured in week 17, the dude was averaging about 16 fantasy points per game. Against the Washington football team last year, he had himself a fantastic game, over 120 rushing yards, got himself a receiving touchdown. I mean, all in all, Miles Sanders is capable. My question isn't Miles Sanders' health, because I think he'll be ready to go. My question is going to be, how is the rest of this offense going to produce without a Rieger, without an Alshon Jeffrey, without a little bit of their offensive? I mean, Brandon Brooks going down is a big deal. Andre Dillard was supposed to play a big role in the offensive line this year. Sure, they still have some pieces, but my question is, how is this offense going to function with all of the adversity they've gone through? Are they going to step up to it, or are they going to crumble? I think regardless, Miles Sanders is a part of the game plan. He's a part of the game script, whether positive or negative. He can be used in the passing game. He can be used when winning and up, and can be used to run out the clock. That is why he is such a valuable prospect, and that is why he sits at number 12 this week. Moving on. James Conner playing against the New York Giants. As of this moment in time, James Conner is playing against a very easy matchup in my eyes. Even with all of the defensive changes they've made in terms of free agent pickups, the New York Giants are still not a top-tier defense. You bring in Blake Martinez as a middle linebacker. That doesn't mean he's going to be able to stop the run. He's not a run stopper, especially in comparison to a lot of the other guys in the National Football League. Sure, they still have a couple good defensive linemen, Leonard Williams, but ultimately I think this Pittsburgh offense, with Ben Roethlisberger back healthy, is going to be able to just be so much more diverse in their approach. I think James Conner is going to have a pretty good game this week. He's healthy, right? And when James Conner's healthy and given opportunity, he's a beast. Moving on. Kenyan Drake's number 14. He plays against the San Francisco 49ers. That is a very difficult matchup. Yet, last season, he produced incredibly against them. I mean, in the two contests against them, the first game, over 100 yards, a rushing touchdown. That was the first game he had played with the 49ers. With the Cardinals when coming over from the Dolphins. But the question is, where does Kenyan Drake's value lie if, in fact, the game script is, going awry? And I think if, in fact, it does and the 49ers take an early lead, Kenyan Drake is going to be used in the passing game, just as long as he's healthy. That is the question at this moment in time. That's why he's at 14, because I think he's very capable running back. But the matchup, the injury, him walking in a boot for the last week, that in itself is kind of scary. Make sure you guys have your Chase Edmonds on roster. But either way, he should be a good running back this week. He's very capable of catching the ball out of the backfield 5+ times. When he played against the 49ers last year, was averaging 4 yards per carry on average. Pretty good numbers. Moving on. Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb plays against the Baltimore Ravens. And though last year Nick Chubb had a great game against them, 150+ yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, the other matchup in which later in the season they played against the Baltimore Ravens, Nick Chubb did nothing. 45 yards, 15 rushing attempts, disappeared. It's a matter of game script with Nick Chubb, and that's why he sits down here, because otherwise he's a top 10 back every single week. But as a matter of game script, going into this upcoming season, Nick Chubb, in my opinion, this week could end up disappearing. Kareem Hunt is there, but it's going to be a matter of, does Lamar Jackson and his Baltimore Ravens offense show up and blow them out? And if in fact they do, you can't afford to have Nick Chubb on the field as often as you'd like to. Therefore, a Kareem Hunt comes in. So that in itself is everyone's concern this year with Nick Chubb. I still expect him to play well. I still expect him to be the goal line back, the guy that's going to get 20 touches a game. If in fact the game script is on their side. So I'm going to kind of lean and give Stefanski the benefit of the doubt and Nick Chubb the benefit of the doubt. Say he's a top 15 back this week. Again, you're starting him regardless. So what are we talking about? Moving on. Chris Carson. We have Chris Carson here. Again, a lot of people are worried about his injury and his hip. It is concerning. I'm not going to ignore the fact that it is a concerning factor. But I personally think he'll be fine. If in fact he gets injured, you know what? It is what it is. I took the risk on it, and I'm willing to bite the bullet. But I think against the Atlanta Falcons defense in week 1 should be a great matchup. Again, there's no Rashad Penny coming for, his passing work. Carlos Hyde could come in for a couple touches here and there, but I'm not concerned. Just as long as Chris Carson doesn't fumble, I'm perfectly happy with his capabilities against the Atlanta front. Again, he should have a pretty good week here as my number 16 overall back. Overall, in terms of Chris Carson's productivity, he needs 20 touches a game. He only gets as good as he is late in the game. And if the Seattle Seahawks take a lead, they're going to run the clock out and run the ball out with Chris Carson. Moving on. On the other side of that matchup, we have ourselves Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is my number 17 back as of this moment in time because, again, we don't know what we're going to see from this offense. Is Gurley going to come out and touch the ball 20 times? Is he going to come out and touch the ball 11 times? I'm not 100% certain, but what I do know is that the Seattle Seahawks defense is not good enough, in my opinion, to stop the Atlanta Falcons wholly. And what that means is that eventually they're going to get down to the goal line, and if and when, Todd Gurley will do what he does and falls in the end zone. And I think he'll have his fantasy productivity there. And if he gets more involved in the passing game, even better. I think this is a huge moment to kind of see what Todd Gurley is capable of in week 1. Moving on. Mark Ingram plays against the Cleveland Browns. Mark Ingram last year against Cleveland Browns was pretty much unstoppable. In terms of what he was able to do on yards per carry against them was pretty easy. In the matchups that they played against them, the second game was pretty much a breeze. The first game, in fact, the Cleveland Browns won, but it was more of a, hey, we're down a lot. We have to use a different kind of game script, pass the ball. Lamar Jackson was forced to pass a lot, and you couldn't really check it down to a guy like Mark Ingram. So nothing was really set in stone. But if, in fact, the Ravens offense is what they were last year, and they come out, they pound the rock, Mark Ingram's going to fall into the end zone. If, in fact, the game script gets into the point where it is a closer matchup, I expect Mark Ingram to be on the field more often than a J.K. Dobbins. But if it's a blowout, then J.K. Dobbins is going to get some work. And that's where potentially Mark Ingram could lose some value, just depending on game script, of course. Moving on. David Johnson. I think David Johnson's also a game script kind of guy. A lot of these guys are game script. They're not game script proof, but it's a matter of whether or not they're going to be able to produce. But I think David Johnson, if in fact they're going to target him in the passing game, could be a viable prospect both sides, whether it's the Houston Texans running the ball down the Kansas City Chiefs' throat, which they've done. I mean, the last time they played him in the regular season last year, Carlos Hyde had over 100 rushing yards. So if David Johnson is up for the task and is able to do that, then, we have ourselves a pretty good game there. But even then, if, Patrick Mahomes comes out, throws 5 touchdowns, let's say, for example, just like he did last time in the playoffs. Now, it was a comeback victory, but let's say he starts out like that. Is it going to be David Johnson or Duke Johnson using the passing game in order to come back in the game? That's the question on hand. And that's what we're kind of questioning and seeing, can we feel it out? What is David Johnson capable of? Regardless, he's playing for your squad this week. I think he'll be perfectly fine. Moving on. Jonathan Taylor is my number 20 because, again, the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite, everything that's gone on this offseason, I don't think that this team is willing and able or built to win. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you just got to hold your breath and hope in the coming years you guys can turn it around. But this organization is a mess. And I think in terms of what they have defensively, getting rid of a lot of their great players, they don't have enough to stop the run. They were not able to do that last year. They were the second worst defense in terms of stopping the run in half PPR against opposing running backs. And I think this upcoming season, it's going to be a mess. And who's going to impose their will? The Indianapolis Colts offensive line with their running back, Jonathan Taylor. He's going to show up, slam the rock down people's throats. And even with Marlon Mack producing, I still think Jonathan Taylor could have the second half work because they'd be up so many points and just running out clock. So I think Jonathan Taylor is in line for some pretty good opportunity. Moving on ahead to our next running back, we have our number 21, Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell can easily catch the ball 5 to 6, 7 times a game. And that's where he is most comfortable. I've seen some, footage of camp. They're lining him out in the slot. They're lining him up out wide. They don't have to use him as a pass blocking back. He can easily be a receiver for this offense in the slot position. And to be honest, for the amount of times that Sam Darnold's going to target Jamison Crowder in the slot, why not put out Le'Veon Bell there? He's just as capable of a receiver and or route runner. So I think that in itself kind of gives him extra value. But the question is going to be how much work and how capable is he on the ground? This Jets offensive line has been retooled. They have 4 new offensive linemen that were not on the team last year. They've retooled it wholly, and I do not know what to expect. We haven't seen them in the preseason. We haven't seen any glimpses of them in terms of, there's a couple, footage clips of them at training camp, but nothing, against a different color jersey. That's what I want to see. So as of right now, I think Le'Veon Bell still going to be a productive back, still a guy you want to start. But a lot of questions will be answered at the end of week 1. Moving on, Raheem Mostert playing against the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals really did improve their defense this offseason. That being said, Raheem Mostert is the starting running back of the San Francisco 49ers, and they're going to run the ball heavily. If and when they do, Raheem Mostert is that hammer. Hopefully, all the talk that he had this offseason of we're trying to get back to the Super Bowl, we're trying to impose our will and have a revenge tour back to the promised land. If that entire spiel holds up and they don't have a Super Bowl hangover, we have ourselves a pretty good situation with Raheem Mostert against the Cardinals defense that last year was pretty If they're not able to stop the run, Raheem Mostert could be bringing some heat there out of the backfield with an improved offensive line, to say the very least. Moving on, Melvin Gordon. Now, Melvin Gordon is a pretty tricky running back, in my opinion, at this moment in time, only because Philip Lindsay is kind of a question mark. Is Phillip Lindsay going to be the Austin Ekeler, get 10 touches and not really hurt Melvin Gordon's goal line work? Or are they going to split them evenly? Are we going to get a 60-40 split, 65-35? I don't know. And we're going to get that question answered this upcoming week. They play against the Tennessee Titans, though. Tennessee Titans are pretty good against the run. They just added Clowney. If Clowney is playing in week 1 on Monday night, he's got a little bit of an extra day to learn. If he's ready to go, that's going to be tough for them. Melvin Gordon, though, is still a very capable receiving back, is a capable 3-down back. And regardless, I think he's going to have his value. Moving on to our next back, Marlon Mack. All right, so that kind of rhymes, but Marlon Mack at this moment in time, I think him and Jonathan Taylor can easily both be top 24 running backs this week because last season, if you guys don't remember, I mean, it's quite the interesting scenario. Marlon Mack and Jonathan Williams, they were a running back duo in Indianapolis, and last year they played against the Jacksonville Jaguars. In the first half of the game, Marlon Mack ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown and easily dominated that defense, then got injured, left the game. Here comes Jonathan Williams, the backup. He ends up running for over 100 rushing yards against the Jacksonville defense. I easily think, like I was mentioning, Marlon Mack can probably come in, be the starter, surpass whatever amount of yards he can, get a touchdown. But then in the second half, it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. And that's why they're both up in this top 24 value, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are expecting Marlon Mack to disappear immediately. I don't think that's the case, but I still like both of their values because of their upcoming schedule, because of their offensive line. Should be a great play this week. Moving on. Kareem Hunt's my number 25. Again, my concerns with Nick Chubb kind of lean me in the direction of Kareem Hunt as a half PPR back that can easily come in and be game script dependent as a receiving back that, I mean, last year was catching the ball 6, 7, 8 times in a singular game from Baker Mayfield. Seems like Baker Mayfield likes to pass the ball out of the backfield in the direction of Kareem Hunt. And again, Kareem Hunt is a running back that can easily be a 3-down back, easily get touches out of the backfield, 10 plus, if in fact the game goes in his direction. And that's just a matter, that's the question that we're all wondering. What are we going to see? Regardless, I think Kareem Hunt still is going to get his touches, but his floor is kind of set at, I'm going to catch the ball 4 times, probably have 40 receiving yards, and then have some work in the running game. And then his upside is touchdowns, more receiving work, more rushing attempts. And it could get really high. It could end up passing Nick Chubb on a certain week. Definitely capable. Moving on. James White. All right, so with the New England Patriots sending Damian Harris to the injured reserve earlier today with the finger injury, James White continues to pretty much seem like the back that everyone should be owning in this New England backfield, especially considering, we go back to 2018 when Sony Michel was injured. James White was easily a 3-down back. Sure, they used Cordell Patterson in there a little bit as a running back, which we'll talk about a little bit later with the Chicago Bears backfield. But I think James White, regardless against Miami, is going to be a pretty good play. Half PPR, full PPR is probably even better. But he's going to get work in the passing game. I don't know exactly what we're going to see from this Cam Newton-led offense. I really don't, but I think James White is going to be featured in this backfield with Sony Michel, but I think James White could end up getting more touches. We're just going to have to wait and see how the week goes. Moving on. Our next running back on hand is Cam Akers. Cam Akers falls to number 27, and I think could be higher. Could be ahead of Kareem Hunt, could be ahead of Marlon Mack, but my question at this moment in time is who's really the starting running back in the Los Angeles Rams backfield? A lot of people are saying it's Cam Akers because of Darrell Henderson's injury, but I've been hearing some whispers about Malcolm Brown, and I honestly think, you guys, if you have an extra roster spot, go pick up Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown can easily be the starting running back of this team and take goal line touches. I mean, we saw him do it week 1 of last year. We saw him do it at week 17 of last year where he was stealing touchdowns from Todd Gurley. He could easily do it this upcoming week against the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm not sure about Malcolm Brown. In terms of what Cam Akers is capable of, he can easily be a 3-down back, can easily get the work in the passing game, but I'm not sure what we're going to see of him. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that even if, Malcolm Brown starts the game, Cam Akers will outcarry him and get more touches and be utilized more in terms of a snap count percentage. That's my hope. But ultimately, we're just going to have to wait and see. A lot of questions regarding these rookie running backs. Moving on, speaking of giving someone the benefit of the doubt, I'm giving Singletary the benefit of the doubt. Devin Singletary at this moment in time, I think, is on a very short leash. I really do think that Zach Moss could easily come and swoop the starting position away. And we'll talk about it when I talk about Zach Moss in a little bit. But Devin Singletary is very capable on the ground, through the air. Against the New York Jets, I think it's a very easy matchup. If this team gets ahead, they can easily run the clock out, but that's my concern. If the team gets ahead and they're winning heavily, won't they just rather give the ball to Zach Moss in the second half? I mean, that's the concern at this moment in time. If it's a closer game, sure, Devin Singletary is kind of looked at as the receiving back of this team, considering he was last year. But Zach Moss is just as capable in the passing game, was really good in college, as I talked about the other day in terms of my must-own running back video. But regardless, he sits at my number 28. A lot to see with his backfield, a lot to see with snap counts, touches. We'll just have to wait. Regardless, moving on. Number 29 is Sony Michel. Sony Michel at this moment in time, again, should be the starting running back, technically, of this team. He should get touches. I know he's been dealing with a lot of injuries, but from what I've seen, I think he's going to play in this week. Against Miami, he's always been a consistent running back. They always want to feed Sony Michel the ball against Miami, regardless. I mean, 20 touches a game, 80 to 100 yards, a rushing touchdown. Bill Belichick wants to run the ball against Miami because typically Bill Belichick gets a pretty good lead against them and wants to just kill the clock in the second half. So I think Sony Michel, if capable, if available and healthy, ready to go, he practices fully this week. I think he could definitely be a top 30 back. He's my number 29. Moving on to another running back, Chris Thompson. I know there's a lot of talk about Ozigbo and then Armstead moving to the COVID list. I mean, Devontae Freeman getting a workout. As of this moment in time, I'm pretty sure I'm just sticking with Chris Thompson. With Gruden back at the Washington Football Organization, they had a little bit of a relationship there. Chris Thompson isn't always healthy, but as a PPR back, can easily catch the ball 6 to 8 times in a game. And if, in fact, Gardner Minshew needs to, we've seen him do that with Leonard Fournette last year. He can easily just pass the ball to Chris Thompson. If anything, Chris Thompson is more capable after the catch in terms of athleticism, speed, all of that kind of stuff. So as of that, Chris Thompson's a very he's probably available in your league too, and he's a very valuable back. So either way, he's my number 30. Moving on to number 31, we have ourselves another rookie running back that I wanted to mention, and I did talk about a little bit earlier, Zach Moss. Now, Zach Moss, the hype has kind of been around him with this all offseason, but let's not get too cute. My concern is that if, in fact, you play him at a flex position or a starting running back position, maybe he doesn't play. Maybe he doesn't get as much touches as we want. Maybe he gets 10 touches and he ends up with, 50 yards. Sure, that's 5 yards per, attempt, but is that really going to be the difference maker for your lineup? I'm a little worried about these running backs, especially these rookies, because I'm not certain of what they're capable of or how much opportunity they're going to get. But the one stat that kind of gives me confidence in a Zach Moss this upcoming week is that last season, amongst all 32 National Football League teams, no other team ran the ball more when they were up in games, in terms of they were up winning, than the Buffalo Bills. When winning, no other team ran the ball more. The Buffalo Bills want to run the ball. They're going to get the lead against the New York Jets. And if and when they do, they're going to hand the ball to Zach Moss in the second half. And I think could have himself a pretty good game. We'll just have to wait and see. Moving on. Our next running back is Antonio Gibson, another rookie running back that I like a lot. I think this is a game script matter. They're playing against the Eagles. The Eagles will probably get the lead if and when they do. I know that there is a Peyton Barber in this backfield. I know Bryce Love's in there. I know J.D. McKissick is in this backfield. But Antonio Gibson is going to be their receiving threat. And they're going to probably have to come back in this game. Antonio Gibson will probably be given opportunity, and hopefully he acts upon it this upcoming week for the Washington football team. Moving on, we have ourselves J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins of the Ravens. Okay, similar to Mark Ingram, it's just a matter of when, right? Because I think J.K. Dobbins will get more touches than Gus Edwards, or I'm hoping he will. And if he doesn't, then everyone's whiffed this offseason. But I'm hoping that J.K. Dobbins can get the touches that we expect him to. Maybe 10 touches in this game, all of them on the ground, maybe a couple through the air, has himself a couple bursty runs, into the secondary, onto the third level. We've seen him do that in college, and just slaughter. If he can go ahead and just kind of bring it to the next level, run behind this, great offensive line, I think that the capabilities of him late in the game, if they're up ahead for majority of the time, are pretty ridiculous. Moving on. Jordan Howard's my number 34. They want to establish the run in Miami. I mean, the leading rusher for the Miami Dolphins last year was Ryan Fitzpatrick. So they want to establish the run. So Jordan Howard, they brought you in for a reason. They're going to try to run the ball against the New England Patriots, who, in my opinion, their run defense has not been great for a couple of years. I mean, it was pretty apparent last year that they struggled heavily in the second half of the season, especially in that playoff game against Derrick Henry. But they've always struggled against the run, and they lost all of their linebackers. They lost themselves some pretty big pieces amongst the defensive line over the last couple of years. Matt Patricia in Detroit just keeps stealing players. He's taking his guys. But either way, I think Jordan Howard's coming out to establish the run. Should be a pretty good play here with Miami this upcoming week. Moving on, Ronald Jones. Now, I don't have Leonard Fournette on this list, as you can see, because I don't think Leonard Fournette's going to play a lot in week 1. If he does, I'll be surprised. Even though I think he's going to be a great back this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette is probably not going to be present, and he probably won't get that many touches even if he plays. I don't even know if he's going to play. So Ronald Jones is the starting running back of this team. He will probably be flanked by Keyshawn Vaughn and LaShawn McCoy, but Ronald Jones is being given the starting job by Bruce Arians. So it's time to earn it. And you play against, in my opinion, the toughest team in terms of stopping the run against opposing running backs. I mean, the New Orleans Saints are one of the best teams at stopping the run, and that's what you have to face against Ronald Jones. And that's going to be rough because really, if you're going out to try to prove everyone why you're the starting running back and you're getting stuffed on a weekly basis because the New Orleans Saints are going to really bring it to you, that's rough. And that's why I'm a little hesitant on Ronald Jones. But I do accept that there is value there. He could easily, run into the end zone, easily get work in the passing game, and just kind of increase his value over the game. But either way, moving on to our last running back on hand, Tarik Cohen. As of this moment in time, I talked about it a little bit earlier. Cordero Patterson could end up being the starting running back of this team. With David Montgomery out with that groin injury, Tarik Cohen could easily, in my opinion, get some work in the passing game, get some rushes out of the backfield. In terms of efficiency last year, he was terrible in between the tackles, was not a great running back. He did not end up with a very high yard per carry average, struggled heavily. But against Detroit, there is always a possibility that he could just torch them in the passing game. With Trubisky there, that's going to be the question mark. What are we going to find ourselves in? Are we going to find ourselves with Trubisky just, making mistake after mistake? Or is he going to be able to just funnel target Tarik Cohen like he did week 1 of last season against Green Bay Packers when he needed someone to throw the ball to? I think there's a potential that Tarik Cohen could have value. Now, of the running backs that I had not mentioned on today's video, we have ourselves Montgomery, who I expect to be out. I expect Damian Harris, again, just went to the IR. Darrell Henderson is probably going to miss. Raquel Armstead is off to the COVID IR. DeAndre Swift is a question mark. Him, Kerryon Johnson, and Adrian Peterson are all question marks in my eyes. I don't think Leonard Fournette's going to play. Latavius Murray is a question mark. If, in fact, we have ourselves Alvin Kamara not playing this upcoming week, Latavius Murray is an automatic top 15 back. Tevin Coleman is a question mark because I don't know what this offense is going to do. Are they going to give the ball to Raheem Mostert exclusively, or are they going to split it up? Malcolm Brown's a question mark, and Phillip Lindsay, it was almost on the cusp of making today's list. These are my top 36 running backs going into week 1 of the fantasy football season here in 2020. Again, I'm excited about this upcoming season, guys. Hopefully you guys are ready. We're going to be talking about wide receivers tomorrow. Hopefully you like today's video. Go down below to the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. Again, smash that like button. Click that subscribe button for those of you who are new to the channel. I cannot thank you guys enough for the incredible support. Let's try to get to that where were we at? We're almost at 18,000 now. 18,000 subscriber mark. Let's get there. It's absolutely incredible. Thank you everybody for watching. And until next time, which will be tomorrow, wide receiver, Tuesday. Usually it's Wednesday. I'll see you guys. Peace.